and welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G. And welcome. Tonight I am here to share with you information on how to have your best life, living it with grace and ease, and finding joy. And I'm here every Monday night from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on WEMS radio with different guests from all walks of life, from all perspectives. And we talk about current events, we have spiritual conversations, we talk about things that have impacted their lives that they can share and support others. The goal is for us to share with you and have you take something away that you can use. One of my main things I talk about is the spiritual toolkit. And the spiritual toolkit is what practices that you have that you can use that support you when you're stressed out, when you're sad, when you're down, when you need to regroup, when you need some clarity. What practices do you have? And many of my guests, we talk about the practices that they use. We talk about their spiritual journey, and you can learn some different practices from this show. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram every day. I'm on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason and on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. You can see me there and get some inspiring information. So tonight, I am really, really excited. Oh, by the way, happy Pride. And I am very excited tonight that I have Monica Murray on my show. And Monica is an entrepreneur. Monica also is a public speaker. And Monica is known as Ms. Mo. And the one thing that Monica, I'm very fascinated about is that Monica is an electrician. So I'm excited to have her here tonight to share with you all that she's done and to leave you inspired. Welcome, Monica.
Reverend G, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's good. So it's so interesting when, I say, okay, we're going to come to the show and I'm going to say this and I'm going to say that. I almost forgot the most important thing that I want to talk about is that you're being an electrician. So it just came up the back, right? And it's the first thing that I really wanted to talk about, right? Was the fact that being an electrician, and that is a non-traditional field for females, right? So when you said you were an electrician, I was fascinated about that, right? And so give us a little bit about how you became an electrician, Monica.
Well, I actually grew up in the trade. My dad, when he was 27, got me into an electrical apprenticeship, and I was just little. And so I watched him do the electrical work around the house, wrenching on different things. And when he wasn't looking, I took his tools and started tearing the house apart. And he decided that if he didn't show me how to do the trade, that I was going to burn the house down. So at 9, I started following him around the job sites, 9 to 16. And then he moved out of state. And at that point in time, excuse me, I was working just, fast food joints until I graduated high school. And then I got into the electrical apprenticeship, a union program.
Okay.
They paid for all of my schooling, all my books, and they even paid me while I went to school.
Oh, okay.
So I've got industrial, commercial, and residential background. I've been in business for myself now, well, on and off, probably 30 years. So as I was working for other contractors, I was still doing my own thing.
And so you've had your business over 30 years, right? What are some of the differences you're seeing then that you see then and now? And I know that COVID probably has had an impact on what that looks like, but how have you seen your business transition and change over the 30 years?
So, um, women want to hire women.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have my slow time is that the phone just doesn't ring as much. I work just as much as I want to. Um, Anymore, I'm probably turning away just as many jobs as I'm accepting.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that haven't changed any is, men still have a little bit of difficulty with women in the trade. And it's not that I was getting pushback per se, but there's like a lack of trust.
Mm-hmm. Because
So, yeah, regardless of the fact that I've been in the trade for 35 years, anytime I run across a new male figure that's in, an authority figure, um, it's just if you're a woman electrician walking in with a male electrician, they automatically assume the man's in charge.
all that.
And when it comes to inspectors, um, they want to make sure that have your nuts and bolts all tightened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then
Feel like that. So, are you seeing any of that easing up in this? Because more and more women are going into non-traditional fields, right? So, have you seen it ease up at all, or is it more, as you said, women are hiring women, right? Because now women now have the businesses and the money to hire women.
Well, as far as working around men, that hasn't changed any. It's the same story as it was, when I got in the trades, having to prove myself. Women absolutely want to empower other women. And when I first started out on my own, it's just like any other thing. You got to build the name, you got to build the notoriety, right? So initially, I worked 100% for women, and now that I've been doing this thing for a while, there's just a referral base out there that it used to be maybe 95% women. Now it's probably 50-50. Just because my name's getting out there, my reputation's getting out there. Uh, I'm really in a good place right now. I don't have to do any kind of advertising at all. Just all the work that I've done over the years is speaking for itself now.
Good referrals.
Right.
Really, really good. And you know what it reminds me too when I think about I was in technology. And back when I was in technology, it was a male dominated field, right? And I think about how I had to prove myself all the time. And I had to make sure they knew I knew what I was talking about. But I got that straight pretty early, right? And I was just thinking back in those days, being a female like in an all male environment was really different because they were just so used to all the cursing and talking to each other a certain way, and I got right with them, right? And so we conform right to fit in the environment, right? So I think about back to those times. So I think and for you it's probably even different now, hasn't changed as much because more women started to go into technology, and then it didn't become such a male dominated field anymore. But as we look at electricians, it's still that you know field that's male dominated. um have you seen more women though? Have you seen a shift in more women becoming electricians?
Well, I'm not working with the union uh, as tight as I was,
Mm-hmm.
but the union brings a lot of women in. I'm in the Capitol. I'm gonna say that there's and I can't even give you a percentage,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a significant number of women compared to when I came in. When I came in, there was two or three of us, and now there's probably 30 or 40.
Mm-hmm.
But surprisingly enough, though, too, when I came in, I started with the union in '85, and the instructor I had at that point in time, he was a women's advocate, and
Mm-hmm.
he made a point to introduce the women in the trades to each other so that we would have, like a sounding board, mentors, whatever. And he also showed me some information that said that the number of women in construction in 1985 was 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 2016, 17, I did some more research and it was still at 3%.
Okay.
So
Okay.
in the last couple of years, though, we're probably 5-6% now. So it is increasing. We've
Yeah.
got more and more women. And that's another thing that I try to do with my business, too, is I try to hire women. I tried to
Mm-hmm.
go 100% women initially, but the times we just need help, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
can't have it both ways, I guess.
Right. Now, what is your business? Can you do construction? And what is the whole business? It's called Maximum. Uh,
Maximo,
Maximo
Maximo contracting. Yes, my Moisms are showing. Yes.
Right, yeah, Mo, right? Maximo, right? Construction. So you do from you build from bottom to top, I want to say, but you do the whole construction also.
Well, I am a licensed builder as well.
Okay.
So licensed electrician, licensed builder. I'm straying away from the remodeling work a little bit now and concentrating more in the electrical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've always stayed more in remodeling because
Mm-hmm.
when you do from the ground up, it's a whole nother set of tools and equipment. So
I was trying to think of nuts and bolts. I was like top to bottom, right? Where are you located, Monica?
Lansing, Michigan.
Lansing, Michigan. Okay, great. And I know you have a farm there and everything, right?
Actually, I'm in the city limits.
Oh, okay.
But yes, I have a mini farm. I have chickens. Yes.
uh, Chickens reminds me of I grew up in Memphis and we didn't raise chickens or anything, but we got these little baby chickens at Easter time. They used to give them to us, baby chickens, and you could take them home and see how long, they would live. And they didn't really live to be big chickens, but I don't think as little kids we would have been able to eat the big chicken if it really lived. But it's that's my chicken story, right? And living in the city, we just don't have chickens, right? So really, that's really interesting that you're Lansing, Michigan, and everything that you've done. I know a little bit about some of the things that you've worked on throughout, but talk to us about your spiritual journey. I always talk to my guests about, how they have gotten to where they are now. You grew up one religion or one way, and how have you transitioned to now what your spiritual practices are?
Well, I actually grew up Catholic.
Okay, Catholic.
Catholic school through fifth grade, the whole shebang. Um, you know, I I hate to say it, but I'm a little biased. I don't like that that form of religion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, an experience when I was early teens really just gave me a bad taste on my mouth. And for a while, I was like opposed to any kind of religion.
Mm-hmm.
But then my mother started dabbling. She started going from different denominations, and so I got to see some choices,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like I was a little less biased. So I can't say that I practice any specific religion,
Mm-hmm.
but I do believe there's a higher power. I refer to it as universe,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very much a fan of treat others as you want yourself to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So of my video series Mismo, a lot of that talks about loving thy neighbor and being kind and different things that hopefully just gives a different tangent, a different way of looking at things, so that we're nicer to each other.
And you created those videos. What are you sharing in the videos? I know we want to talk about the Mismo and the Moisms, right? And all of that, and how um, that came about and how you use that. But what are your videos, the purpose of your videos, and who are you trying to reach? And I get what you're saying. It's all about do unto others as you will have them do unto you.
Yeah, just in part of my spiritual journey, doing different personal development, I would get different ahas, different pieces of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go out into the job site or whatever, and I could see where it's like people were being pitted against people or pitting themselves against people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just tuning into a little more spiritual. Like one of my very first videos I did was called First Voice.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years of the spiritual work and trusting my intuition, I there's this voice that says, sometimes it's work stuff, grab a battery while you're at it. But
Mm.
it's also, it's a checks and balance kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my videos I did a copycat of remember Foghorn Leghorn? No, Foghorn Leghorn was a cartoon.
Oh, okay.
Warner Brothers, I think it was. I'm not sure, but a big chicken, a big rooster, and
Okay.
he was a prankster, and
Okay.
and he would have an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, and the angel was saying, now, be good, be nice, and the devil would say, oh no, pull this prank.
Mm.
And so I did it on Good and Bad,
Mm.
and they're all in my funny sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
and they're no cost at all to put the thing on, just a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just lessons. Which voice are you listening to?
Mm. Mm. That's interesting, because when you said first voice, it made me think about being able to go within and hear that voice. And your concept of there's this voice and that voice, they're both there, right? And being able to, right, know which one to go with, and being able to discern, okay, I want to do this or that. So it's interesting.
The first voice is really it happens so fast that if you're not paying attention, you go right to the second voice.
That's interesting, Monica. What you say? We met the first voice is so fast that we go to the second voice.
Right. It just the first voice is like your subconscious talking to you.
Yeah.
And then your second voice is where consciousness or programming steps in and starts telling you, you really don't want to do that thing.
Right, exactly. That is so I like that, the first voice and the second voice. And the first voice, like you said, sometimes you always hear the second voice before you hear the first voice, right? And I'm working this book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, right, by Joseph Murray. And in this book, it's really talking about techniques for training and understanding how the subconscious mind works. The first thing is to understand it, right? And then there is to follow practices that that you're listening to the first voice or following the first voice, as you said, the subconscious mind. and the power that it has when you can connect to the subconscious mind and understand how it works in your life. So that I like that connection between the first voice and the second voice. And that you said we'll miss that first voice a lot of times, right?
Right, and there's other techniques too. If we miss that first voice, we can always go back, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we get caught in indecision, or
Mm-hmm.
or even if we're in a trigger, we
Yeah.
can stop. We can stop and say, what do I want to write here? What do I want, instead of it being automatic, instead of it being on emotions and feelings?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to write here?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you know um, being impeccable even when nobody's watching, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
um, so the first voice is more intuitional. The second, the having to go back is tools. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tools that support. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And that I like the concept of that because when people talk about, well, how, it's always about how to do these things because there's so many um, people saying this, that there is the way to have your life be what it is, right? But how, right, is what we're talking about. So, what tools can we use to support us in having life be the way we want it to be? So with this concept of first voice, second voice, and tools, it really breaks it down where I feel that people can understand where the tools come into play.
right. The first voice is, again, intuitional.
Intuition, right?
It's like an inner wisdom.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
then when you skip over the first voice and you find yourself in a trigger or indecision,
mm-hmm.
then you can use the tools. Like if I step outside of the emotions and the feelings, what's the outcome that I want this to be? What do I want to write here?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you catch yourself in a trigger, you can
Mm-hmm.
actually just recognize that it's a trigger. It's not something that's actually happening right now. It's something from the past,
Mm-hmm.
another experience. So then you can also separate from the emotions and feelings, and decide how it is that you want to move on from that moment.
It reminds me of react versus respond in the moment, right? As you're triggered. So we're triggered. Do we react or we respond? And reaction can be just that immediate thing, but a response can be if we take a moment, as you said, to decide. So what do I want to have happen? Then we will respond, but it will be from that space of what do you want the end result to be? So it sounds like that whole process of react versus response, and we generally react right away.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're programmed beings, right? I mean, we
Right,
rewrite those stories years and years ago, and it's the first reaction is to go back to that reaction.
right.
But,
To
but
the
the thing is,
familiar.
right? But the thing is if you put a different reaction in there on purpose, it
Hmm.
becomes the automatic after a while.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is. Practice, practice to make those changes, and recognizing and being willing to do the work that it takes, right, to make the change.
And my buddy Reverend G, she says grace and ease, right?
Yeah.
So as we're going through this, you got to give yourself a lot of grace and ease, because I make mistakes all the dang time, even though I'm talking about all these tools and things. I forget. I
Right.
And instead of beating myself up, it's just like, yeah, okay, you
Yeah,
missed it this time. Can you remember your tools and do it again? Do it again.
exactly. I love that because it is about grace and ease, and it is about getting to the point that you said, oh, wow, I did that. And I call it non judgment. We've learned to judge ourselves less, right? because clearly we could get judged from many, many places. So you don't want to do it to yourself, right? So it's like the whole idea of being able to laugh at yourself and being able to not take yourself so seriously and say, okay, wow, I did that. Oh, well, tomorrow's a new day. I could do something different about it, and being able to make that shift. And that comes with practice
Oh yeah,
because,
lots and lots of practice, lots of grace and ease.
yeah, lots and
And
lots
just being
of,
able to laugh at yourself, I mean, someplace along the line, society, church, I'm not sure where it was, but they put this shame and guilt in there. We
yeah.
don't need that. We don't need that. We just
And
need to, go back, do a little bit of erasing and rewrite it.
rewrite it, right. And that is really the goal, that all that shame and guilt, wipe it out and move forward. And I like the idea that thinking about grace and ease, right, is a way to remove all that because it comes with self care. Grace and ease to me is about self care and taking care of yourself, right, as we go through all of the things that we go through. And I've been around a long time. So there was a point when I was doing the fight, 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 and the go, go, go. And I had to make it to the top and I had to do everything. And so there was all the energy around all the doing, doing, doing. I got to do this, I got to do that. And now, as time has gone on, there's less of all that doing. I realize it's really not about all that doing, right? And that's how I developed into the grace and ease. And that's the whole being thing that I finally learned, right? What it looks like.
Well, and a little bit of a different definition from me is when we talk to a child,
Mm-hmm.
we have all sorts of forgiveness and love for that little kid. No,
Yes.
no, honey, no, no, honey, we do it this way,
Right.
or whatever. But when we are our own worst enemies,
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to us, it's like, you messed it up again,
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not just treat us with the love and the care that we take to our little ones,
Mm-hmm.
and forget about the guilt and shame and just say, you know what, I really want to do this thing and go do the next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and that is a nice way to take care of yourself. When I think about the concept in that way, that's how we do the little ones, right? And treating ourselves the same way. We'll shift, make a big shift in how we live. Yeah, I like that, Monica. Great gems you dropping out here about living life. Um, Talk about what's the Mo isms, Monica. What is that, right?
Well, I've had several nicknames over the years,
Mhm.
and Mo's the one that most people go to automatically without even checking in with me. And um, at first I didn't like it. Don't ask me
Mhm.
why I didn't like it, but I didn't like it. But then, one day in my goofy self, I just got the playing around and I wrote a list of the different Moisms, and it's like Mo money and Mo time and Mo better. And, I've literally got a list in my phone. And when a new one comes up, the phone comes out and I type in the next one.
Mhm.
So, I've got two dogs, Gizmo
Mhm.
and Maximo,
Okay, right.
and the business is Maximo as well.
Mhm.
But then also Mismo. You know,
Mhm.
like I said, my goofy sense of humor. You know, um, Being an electrician, being a builder, I'm all the time having to come up with fixes
Mhm.
that aren't necessarily, a standard fix. And
Mhm.
so it made me think of the sitcom back in the 90s called MacGyver.
MacGyver. I remember MacGyver.
I'm Mo Guyver.
Oh, MacGyver. Okay. Okay. Right now, I get it. Right.
So,
Mhm.
most people think it's, pretty lame, but it tickles me. So,
Um, Another thing that we had talked about, it is Pride Month, right? And I know you had started the women's social group, right, in your town. Talk about that experience, and the big conference you did and the impact and where you are now.
So the lesbian bar was downtown
But your
someplace.
internet is going in and out. Like,
Yeah, I'm in a thunderstorm here, so I'm not sure. How's that? Am I back on?
well, it's sort of like how when it goes when we can hear every other word kind of in and out. Start talking and let's see. You said you were in the what?
So there was a lesbian bar in Lansing
Mhm.
that closed up. No, any
No,
better?
no better. What did you say happened all of a sudden? Your internet went out, or you kind of lost connection. Now you're frozen. So
Yeah, I'm not changing my provider. All right, I just changed the connection.
you change your internet connection.
Yeah, so let's hope that took care of it. We're having a thunderstorm here, so that could be part of the internet problems.
Okay.
Are you hearing me back now?
We were going good. It's kind of in and out. So maybe as you continue, and maybe it'll come in clearer as we go through.
Okay. So, anyways, the lesbian art comes up, and the lesbians were wanting, an outlet for socializing. And so there was about 8 of us that started a social group in the Lansing area. And that's where I get into being a producer of events. We would have local gatherings, we would have bigger gatherings where we actually went on cruises and group and dances, rides, um, you name it, we tried to put it on. In 2015, there was a women's music festival that had been running for 40 years and closed up. And the woman, when she retired, she didn't put anybody in her place to continue the musical.
Yeah, it's
So
muffled now, Monica. I'm not sure if it's just for me, but part of the words we're not hearing. And I think everybody's missing the point of what you're saying. I can interpret, right? um,
all right, I'm going to try one more thing.
okay. Yeah, we all sometimes we will have these internet issues, right? With the way we are virtual and everything is on Zoom and everything is on the internet, we have to allow for these type of things to happen. I know that what she was saying was that she has started like a lesbian group in her community, within the community. And a part of that was to give them a place to have parties, do events, and to come together as community. She described it as community within a community. And she had these huge festivals that she did each year that were really popular out there. So, I wanted to talk to her more about now that she's transitioned from that, what's going on now. So, hopefully, she'll come back and she can talk to us more about that. And it's interesting that this is Pride Month, and we're talking about all the different there were a lot of activities going on. So how the LGBT community can be supported during this month and the different things that are going on. Are you back, Monica?
I am. Is that any better?
A little better, right? I gave them the summary of the women's social group and how you did the huge concerts and events, right? And then I said you could talk what's I know you transitioned from doing that, right? And so what's going on now? How are you supporting the community now, and what's going on with that whole thing?
Okay, so just backtracking a little bit, I did co-produce a women's music festival for 4 years. It took place of another festival that retired in 2015. Again for women. That was a huge event. We took a rough piece of land, and we went in and we spent a really long summer making a festival ready. We built outdoor showers, we cleared brush, made trails. It's an event where you can camp, rustic camping. Uh, 95% built by women. The other 5% are things that we just couldn't find women that were doing it. And that was like the Porta Johns, right? We call them Porta Janes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not a woman crew out there that cleaned Porta Janes. So that's where the guys came in.
Mm-hmm.
But I did resign from that. COVID put that to the next. And so now, I'm doing the Nismo. Trying to figure out how I can do it. What I'm going to do in a bigger platform with that. Also want to do more with bringing women into construction. I've got an idea I'm tossing around now that would be offering classes where you could actually come in and get hands on. You know, like instead of from a lab where you might get. I used to do this class called Magic Camp, where these girls would come in for a week and they would get trained in carpentry and ironwork and electrical. And everything was in a lab. They didn't get any actually out of the field experience. So I'm currently working on trying to develop where a class can come in and get experience doing drywall, doing heating, air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, and actual hands-on experience with it. And even if they just take it home and become a do-it-yourselfer, but hopefully transitioning these girls right out into being in the skilled trades.
And giving them that hands-on experience is really, really important, right?
Well, yeah, it definitely gives them a taste of what it's like. A lot of gals think that they got these grandiose ideas of what it is, and then they find out that it's really hard work, and some of them don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
But I'm also doing some coaching and personal development stuff. It'd be kind of nice to think that at some point in time that I'll be taking that out and doing that in my videos and in trainings and seminars. But that might be down the road a little bit yet.
That sounds good. And I know you said you do public speaking. You're doing that where you go out and talk to young women about being in construction and engineering. Is that a part of your public speaking gigs?
Yeah, so like with the Magic Camp, it may be where I actually go out and teach and try to organize. Well, but most of it's virtual. I did a thing just last month for an organization put on by the state of Michigan for, they called it Breaking Conditions. And it was for students between the ages of 17 and 22 that were going into non-traditional trades. So, as an example, men into medical, women into welding. And it was really just talking to them about my own experiences and how to just stay strong in an environment that isn't traditionally male or isn't traditionally female.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, that's really really cool. One of the things that I always ask my guests to talk about their spiritual practices. So I know we went through your whole spiritual journey, but what would you say would be the top three? And I call them spiritual practices because that's what I call them. That will support you. The traditional stuff like prayer, people say, and meditation. But on this show, we found that I've seen people use so many different practices to support them. And so I talk about this spiritual toolkit, I call it. And so, what go to practices do you have to support you in getting through day to day, Monica?
Well, I don't even know if you would call them spiritual practices.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I try really hard to be a good person. And so if I find myself not in the greatest of spirits,
Mm-hmm.
I go into some people might call it meditation, but I call it soul searching. What are my thoughts? What are my impulses, my emotions, my sensations? Where is it that I can, as we talked about earlier, write something different. Um, I do Reiki, I do massage, and
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that is being more intuitive, more of a healer.
Mm-hmm.
So my spiritual practices all really revolve around me being a better person,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to help other people feel better themselves, whether it's in Reiki or massage or and I use that lightly because I don't do a whole lot of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's more transformational work. We're going in and where these people are already wanting to make changes for themselves and just helping them facilitate that. Um, I don't have a practice of
Mm-hmm. And that's why I said I call them spiritual practice. I put the label spiritual on them, but they are just, we could call them practices that help you and support you throughout your life. And um, I like Reiki too. You talked about massage. You talked about Reiki. So those are, I would say, different wellness practices. Um, Using different modalities, right? I'm thinking of words, right? Because I think you said I didn't something about you wouldn't necessarily call them spiritual practices.
well, so to add to my list of accomplishments, I am a Reiki master. I am also a licensed massage therapist, and for a while, I actually practiced as I had a massage office. Um, People are all the time, um, looking for health. Well, I was going to say wealth and health. Um, so Reiki and massage are both intuitive tools as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's all about people healing themselves or having a spiritual awakening. Because for me, if you would have talked to me in my early 20s about any kind of spiritualness of the universe or healing tools like Reiki or kinesiology or massage, I was straight Western medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, my spirituality is just being um, well within. And a buddy of mine used to say, "You take care of the small things, and the universe will take care of the big things." And I really believe that, that for the most part, the world is becoming more of a war zone, and we're in survival mode, and that we need to go back to working together and make the world a better place. Just back to the neighbors. And, this is actually steps back to the women's social group and the music festival, right?
Mm-hmm.
You step into that property, whether it was an event through the social group or the music festival. You'd be carrying your gear in, and if you were struggling, a sister would stop and help you out. If you dropped something, if you lost your wallet, you didn't have to worry about whether you were going to get your money back. It was, it's just an area where it's women taking care of women in every stretch of the imagination. If you need a helping hand, you don't even have to ask for it. You have to, there's too many women offering help. And it's a kindness, and it's a community that you just don't really experience in lots of places anymore. And so my spiritual practice is, and that's how Mismo came up about. It's love thy neighbor, right? I did a video, which is not public, that was like a tribute to Mr. Rogers. And when I did the video, instead of me having the cardigan on and looking like Mr. Rogers, I had my safety vest and my tool pouch and my hard hat and my flashlight. And I walked in the door just like Mr. Rogers, right? I changed my shoes. But I needed the opening credits, right? So instead of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, it was Ms. Mo's neighborhood. And my lesson was just about what's a neighbor. What's a neighbor? And it's just back to helping humanity, being a better person. There's times when my anger and frustration. I wasn't a very nice person to be around, and so I went on a journey to find something different. This is my journey is by me finding something different. I get to take it out and hopefully find that, help others find that for themselves as well. So that's my spiritual practice.
Yeah, I like that where you said is being of support to others is a spiritual practice for you also. Taking that would being able to support others. I like that. Yeah, so that's really good, and I like all the different ways that you're looking at Mismo and how it can support you. And the transformational journey is one that we're always on, right? And we can continuously look at different ways in our lives that we can transform. I know we've been in momentum together, right? And if you don't know, momentum is a company that offers personal and professional development and training through workshops and coaching. So that's where I met Monica. And I love the momentum community. What I love that it's a community of giving. It's a community where it's really about you developing yourself, but also in a way that you're giving out. It's really about being of service to yourself and to others. And I like that we get things done too in the community. So, Monica, as you have gone through this whole momentum experience, what would be a couple of key things you could share that you've gotten from your journey through momentum?
Well, as I was talking earlier about the um, first voice
Mm-hmm.
and the ability to go back if you don't catch the first voice and choosing something different. Um, so many of us go through life thinking that things happen to us when
Mm-hmm.
when in reality it's choices we make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if we can take away the blame
Mm-hmm.
and take responsibility, then we can also choose something different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful because um, if you get that you're always choosing, that it's always about the choices you make, you'll focus on your choices, right? You'll be more intentional about the choices that you make.
One would hope. One would hope. Because I know for myself that I thought I was I think I get better with this time with time, but it's all involving. It's all involving. I mean, um, there's so many places we make excuses for ourselves and we don't even realize what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just like peeling an onion. You got this layer, and then you got the next layer, and you got the next layer, and yeah, there's lots and lots of places that we say that somebody else is making us doing it, and really it's just us. It's just us.
Mm-hmm. Well, Monica, it's been really, really, really great having you on the show tonight. We had a little bit of a technical glitch, but as I was saying, it's technology. It's been really, really great having you on the show. You have any last thing you want to leave our people with?
Oh, I didn't think of anything before stepping into the show, but you know, uh, for a long time I was unhappy, and
Mm.
a friend of mine told me that you make your own happiness. And this was like 20 years ago, right? And I just looked at her and I said, well, how the hell do you do that?
Mm.
So my piece of advice is keep looking, keep
Mm.
figuring it out. Because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'll be the first to tell you that I was miserable for a long time. And now that I found happy, I'm going to stay right here. Or I'm going to be even more happy. I'm going to become more abundant with happiness and joy.
Mm.
And so, if you first don't succeed, keep on succeeding or keep trying to succeed.
Very good. I like that, Monica. Thank you so much, and I've enjoyed having you on the show, and I appreciate that you took the time to be here with me and sharing. Thank you for joining me tonight on Conversations with Reverend G. I'm here every Monday night on WEMS Radio Live. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and the WEMS app. I will see you next week again on Conversations with Reverend G. And one thing that I found very interesting that's sticking with me right now is about choices and what are we choosing? If we realize that everything is a choice, as I said, then we become more intentional about the choices we're making. So let's check in this week and look at what are we choosing for our lives. And as always, I'm here to support you in finding joy and living your best life with grace and ease. A lot of things are happening right now. I see us spinning. Monica, are you here or not? And so it's Reverend G. And as I said, I'm going with the flow. The technology is doing what it's doing, but I'll be here next week, 8 p.m. You have a great week.